Hi, I'm Rebecca Bradley. This is the Virtual Crime Book Club. Today is Monday, the 5th of December, 2022, and we are discussing Violet by SJI Holliday, otherwise known as Susie. There will be spoilers discussed in this meeting, and even from the outset, we may be discussing them with Susie. So if you are watching this as a video rather than in the meeting, be aware you might want to go and read the book first. So having done that, hello Susie, thank you for joining us today.
Hello, I was very pleased you're reading Violet.
Yes, I was really glad when it got picked actually. What I'll do is a Q&A, it'll last about 15-20 minutes. And then I'll let you go because no author wants to sit through a book group discussing what they thought of it. Well, where did you get the idea for Violet?
When I was on the trip that's in the book, so on the Trans-Siberian Express back in 2006, that's actually when I started writing. Not that book, but that's when I started writing sort of properly and decided I wanted to be a novelist. And I always knew I wanted to set something on that train, but at the time I didn't know what the story was. So it was just something, a few books in, I thought, I really need to do something with that train journey. And just went for it. I just kind of wanted to write something about the kind of people you meet on your travels and how you trust people because you think you're on the same boat, and then as is obvious in the book, that's not always a good idea.
Yeah, well, I didn't know whether I read the audiobooks and they don't read the acknowledgements out in that, so I didn't know whether you'd said this in the acknowledgements that you'd taken the trip or not, but they don't read the acknowledgements out in the audiobooks.
I didn't know that actually.
No, I wish they did because you miss quite a bit, don't you?
Yeah, because in my acknowledgements I usually have a bit of background as well as just thanking people. So yeah, that's a bit of a shame. Good to know that actually.
So my next question was why the Trans-Siberian Express, but you took the journey, did you?
Yeah, it was part of a round the world trip I did for 6 months back in 2006. And that was part of it. Yeah, so we travelled from Beijing to Moscow, stopping off Mongolia and also in Irkutsk. So all the stops that were in the book were the stops that we took. So that side of the book was quite easy to write because it was places that I'd been and experienced, because I think like you can obviously do lots of research without going somewhere, but when you are there, it just comes to you quite naturally. So that was kind of a fun part of the book.
So all those little details that are in there, they're from memory.
Yeah. Well, I mean, apart from the murders, obviously, they're
that you're not telling us.
I will not be revealing if those are real or not. But yeah, so all the details of the places and the kind of people around and the feeling of them and stuff, that was all pretty accurate from going there. And also when we were there, we'd written a travel journal. So this is kind of one of the first things I did really online writing wise. Me and my husband both took it in turns to write about where we'd gone for this whole 6-month trip. So I had loads of notes because we'd written in quite a lot of detail about the places we'd been and what we'd done and people we'd met and all sorts of things. So that was really handy because I was able to kind of dig back in and then really remember stuff in more detail as well when I was reading this stuff. So that was good fun.
I don't suppose the book cover is one of your photos.
No, it's not. That was an Arenda special book cover, the upside down, because I'd had that from my previous book with them, The Lingering, where we had an upside down Gothic building. So yeah, same. Just a normal. If you look up "Girl on Train Tracks," I'm sure you'll find it. And then it's just spun, and then obviously just effects and stuff to make it a bit different. But I did share when the book first came out. I did share lots of photos of the trip. Like I did like a 30-day blog thing where every day I shared a photo without any caption, just a photo of that. So you can still find that on my site if you want, and see how much younger I looked in 2006.
Oh, I know, don't we just, when you look back on old photos. Yeah. So when did so you went in 2006. When did you pull the idea together for Violet the story?
So it came out end of 2017, I think, or 2018. I'm not sure. So, and I wrote it mostly the beginning of that same year. So it came out later that year, and I wrote it early, so nearly a year before. And I'd been kind of thinking about it for a while, but just wasn't sure what I wanted to do with it. I knew I wanted it to be two girls, and that sort of friendship element. But I didn't really have it all together until then. So yeah, so I think I'd been just mulling over it for years and wasn't sure what to do with it, but I just knew that at some point I would use the setting, because it's too good not to, especially now, because you probably can't do that trip, and you probably won't be able to do that trip for a long time to come now. So yeah, I feel really lucky that I did do it.
Yeah. So when you started writing it, did you know the ending when you started?
Yes, kind of, I think. I mean, most of the time when I'm planning any of my books, I know the ending. And quite often I write the ending because I just kind of like to have that cemented point where I get to. And sometimes it changes, but not often. So yeah, I think I did know the twist, that you were about Carrie not being dead. That kind of, I had that like quite early on. So that kind of just led to that, and I suppose the ending was just like that kind of final moment. And that bit actually where it ends in the bar in the Tiergarten in Berlin, that's also a place that I had been. So I really kind of pictured that whole feeling of the busyness of that place, and how people just come up and sit on table next to you and that kind of thing, and how it would be easy for her to disguise herself until that point where you wanted to see her again. So I really visualized that when I wrote it. So that was good.
Yeah. And what is your writing routine, or what was it like for Violet? If your writing routine changes, what was your writing routine like for Violet?
Well, it kind of does and doesn't change, because I've still got a day job, which I'm now doing part-time, thankfully, but still pretty intense. So I kind of have to fit writing in whenever I can. So I always need to outline first, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to, because I haven't got time to sit down and think what I'm going to write. I have to be able to sit down and write however many words I need to write that day. So usually the planning part takes quite a long time. Start off with just me emailing myself with ideas until I've kind of solidified it. Then I go into quite a detailed outline, and then once I've got that, then I start writing. And usually at some point along that line, I will write the beginning or a scene or something, if I've kind of just want to get a feel for the characters, and I might go back and forward a bit with the characters until I get the right point of view, that sort of thing. But then once I've got it all nailed down, I usually write quite quickly, sort of aiming for a couple thousand words a day, like until it's done. And then I usually have quite a clean first draft, because I've done so much planning beforehand. So that's usually helpful. But yeah, it's still really hard. It seems to get harder with every book. I thought it would be easy by now. It's really not.
No, I know. How much fun was it creating Violet the person?
Oh, that was the best one, because I just wanted to have this like real, like, girl that you love to hate, but you're so compelled by her that you could imagine that if you met her, you'd be drawn to her, even though you'd be scared of her. So that was really what I wanted, and it's almost like I just let her do anything she wanted, and that was the biggest fun part of the book. And then really at the beginning, actually, Carrie was supposed to be like her polar opposite, so she was supposed to be like more sensible and you know, just sort of the yin and yang aspect. But it also turned out quite quickly that Carrie wasn't that either, and she had secrets of her own. And I thought, you know, you kind of have to have that too, because I think it would be quite unusual for someone to be the real opposite of Violet, because no one is perfect and no one doesn't have things that they're not proud of. So I kind of, she changed a bit. And actually when it got to the editing stage, my editor actually said something about, well, they're both psychopaths. And I said, well, no, they're not, because Violet, yeah, you could argue probably is, because there's lots of things that she's done that she has no remorse for. But Carrie, I don't think Carrie was like that at all. Carrie's sort of driven by something that's happened to her, more specifically. And so I definitely wouldn't say that she was bad in that way, but she's done bad things because she's been hurt. So
Mm.
it was fun to write them both, and I thought they really bounced off each other really well. And I think the thing with Violet was she could be from anywhere, really. That was the point of her. She was a shapeshifter. Whereas with Carrie, she's very much rooted in Edinburgh, where I'm from. So that was really fun to write that side of things as well, and have some of the Edinburgh background. And then sort of, spinning back to there in the end. So that was fun. They were
Yeah.
both fun.
I listened to the audiobook, as I said, and the narrator was great. She did the Scottish accent for Carrie, and it was really good.
It's so good. So she's done quite a few of my books now, Imogen Church, and her accents are incredible. I went to see her record a bit of Violet, and I went in when she was doing one of the Russians, and I just went, oh my God, like she just really nails the accents.
Yeah.
And then when she did the Scottish bit, and I was like, wow, it's not only that she's done a generic Scottish accent, she's got it spot on to the area where Carrie's from. So real attention to detail with the accents there. So
She
yeah,
just sounds like a different person.
yeah, it is. It's just like a one-woman show. She just can do all the parts. It's amazing.
Yeah, she was brilliant. Yeah. When you're working, what is your preferred procrastination method?
Oh my God, anything. I will literally do anything rather than work. I actually set up recently that I've made a magnetic notebook that's stuck in the kitchen, because whenever if I'm working and my husband's at home and I'm at home and he comes and asks me to do something, I will literally drop everything. Yes, I'll do it now, no matter what it is. And I realized how much I was derailing myself with this. So I now ask him to please put it on the pad, and I won't look at the pads until I've done what I'm meant to be doing. So that's the plan, but it doesn't really happen because I still, I'll check my emails and then someone will ask me to do something in an email and then that'll be it. So yeah, I think any distraction is procrastination for me. It's terrible. Like if I could lock myself in a cupboard and write, I probably still wouldn't do it. I'd probably find something else to do, like organize the shelves or change the light bulb.
Yeah. Yeah. Right, Violet has been optioned for actual Hollywood movie. How excited are you that it has a director attached, and not just any director, but Lena Headey?
Not anymore.
No.
No, we've got someone better.
All right.
So, yeah. So what happened was we had this all started pre-COVID, and then obviously COVID stopped everything from happening. So we had cast and everything. We had a shooting date, and it all got sort of held back. And then we got Lena, which was brilliant. It was all very exciting. So it all went back on track, and then she was bringing people with her, and that was all exciting. And then she pulled out approximately 6 weeks after we'd announced it, and we waited for ages to announce it as well because she wanted to wait, blah blah. So, and then just after that happened, the war in Ukraine started, so we were no longer able to film it in Ukraine, which was the plan. So everything went like totally wrong. However, since then we now have a new director. She's called Hayley Easton Street. Now that's not really been announced anywhere, so you've got an exclusive here. She's brilliant because she's worked as an art director in lots of big films like Star Wars, huge big budget films, and then she's moving into like her own directing. So she's currently just finishing off a film that was shot in Dominican Republic, which she's just been doing. And then she's starting another one, and then she's due to hopefully work for us starting from March. So they're recasting now. So all the people that we lost have been reapproached and they're not coming back, whatever. So now it's about getting new people. So lots of things are really in place. But it just kind of now depends on getting that key cast, because once you have that, then everything just gets unlocked, because that's when they go, yeah, here's the money, here's this, here's everything. So it all happens. So it could all happen very quickly. We are hoping to start filming it sort of the end of second quarter next year, end of first into the second, hopefully. So fingers crossed.
Oh,
it will happen, because we actually had to rewrite the script as well to remove Russia. So yeah, so it's no longer the Trans-Siberian Express. It does still start in China. They do still go into Mongolia, and then at the point where they're then supposed to, they have their part of the story there, and then when they're supposed to continue on the train journey, we've had to change it. So I won't say any more, because if it happens, then it will be exciting, because the story will fundamentally be the same, and the girls will be fundamentally be the same, but just some of the location will change. But
yeah,
you know,
but it is a very cinematic novel, so
yeah,
it'll be great to
hopefully.
make it to screen.
Yeah, definitely. And quite a lot of the things, because I've been involved in the screenwriting of it as a consultant, and I've learned so much already from doing that about the kind of things that translate from books into films and things that don't, and certain things that they have to make bigger. So like they want to have, like, you know, really big kind of set piece type things that you wouldn't need in a book, but you need to have it on a screen. On the screen. So it's been really great. So it's been a great process, but it's obviously very frustrating and takes quite a long time. But I have everything crossed that this version of it will get through.
Oh yeah, fingers crossed for you.
Yes, thank you.
What can readers expect from you next?
Well, my current book is The Hike, which is up there, or maybe it's up there. It's up there. There it is. So that one's also set on a trip that I did. This was set in the Swiss Alps, which was a trip that I did in 2015 with me and my husband and two friends, and we went on a hike, and we got a bit tired and things started to go wrong, and I immediately started thinking this is a book, because what would happen here is I would push someone off, or they would push me off, or whatever. So that one I really wanted to write, and it was about thinking about who was telling the story. So it was always going to be two couples, but it was about what linked them. And in the end, it became two sisters, and that made it really great, because you have like that whole kind of family dynamic. So that's the current one that's out now. And then the next one comes out in June. It's called The Street. So it's a bit more back to just domestic. It's set in a street in Scotland on a housing development that I have built on an empty site, which is currently an empty site. So that's a bit more of a paranoid neighbours type thriller. So that's a bit different. So I like to mix up, you know, something with a location and then something back home, and just keep it going. So yeah.
Great. Where can readers find you online?
Everywhere, because obviously I'm not working. You'll find me on Twitter still as SJI Holiday. You'll find me on Facebook, SJI Holiday. And Instagram is actually Susie J Holiday, because I think I originally tried to set up Instagram years before it really kicked off, and took my own username and then locked it. So I think that's why I have a different one, because I've locked it for myself. But there you go.
Right. I'm sure people will find it.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
No, it's been great. Thank you for talking to us about Violet, and fingers crossed for production next year.
Yes,
and I will definitely be watching.
You would definitely hear me shout about it if it gets greenlit, so don't worry, you won't miss it.
I hope so. Thanks very much, Susie.
Thanks. Thanks everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, that was lovely. I've not muted everybody, have I?
No.
Oh, that's all right then. You were all very quiet. No, that was really, who's gone there? There's an empty chair. Oh, right, okay. Yes, that was good. I do hope it gets made, because I did feel it was very cinematic with the setting. So yeah, fingers crossed for that. Really enjoyed talking to Susie. And I hope you enjoyed her coming on. I didn't receive any questions though. So you were not.
Confession. I only saw the email just before I joined the. I saw the email come through. Thought, oh, good. There's the link. Oh no. We should have done some questions, and it's a shame, because but I had read the acknowledgements bit at the end of the book, which she referred to, about how she, that she were, because I was really interested on what had given her the idea, and there is a bit about the fact that she had done that trip herself.
You don't get that on the audio books. They just completely miss out the acknowledgement, so you don't get any of that. So
Well, I must admit, I quite often skim read the acknowledgements or not even read them at all. But this one I did because I was really, really interested. I mean, I loved the book, so it was just interesting to find out what she had to say about it.
Okay, so the usual first question applies. What did you enjoy the book, or what? Yes, did you enjoy it?
Very much.
Yeah, I enjoyed the book. The interesting thing was that I did not like any of the characters. They were all terrible people. So I was wondering which type of trip she did, if she really met all of these awful people. But yeah, I enjoyed it, especially the characters. They were all bad people.
Yeah. Yeah, the only one that you thought might have had some saving grace about it was the friend back home who'd broken her leg and couldn't go on the trip. Right up until you find that she'd been having a fling with Carrie's other half. So yes, you're right. There weren't any likable characters there at all.
No. So, what did everybody enjoy the book?
Yes.
Yeah, I really liked, so I read it in summer. So I read it while I was on holiday, but not on the Trans-Siberian Express. But the thing is, I'd had it on my Kindle for a while, and I finally read it and I was like, oh my goodness, because I actually did that trip. So I went to, but the other way round. So I went from Moscow to Beijing with a friend because I studied Japanese. So actually I went to Vladivostok and then to Japan. So and he stayed for a while in Ulaanbaatar, and he was telling me stories about how he had not pawned, he had given his watch in order, because the money didn't mean anything to them there, and he didn't have dollars and I don't know what, so they didn't want the local currency, they wanted dollars, and he didn't have dollars, so he had to give his watch to get I don't know what food and so on. So it really brought a lot of that back. So I was really fascinated by the whole trip, and I know I was commenting at the time on Twitter to Susie. I was like, did you actually do this trip? Before I reached the acknowledgements section, did you actually do this trip? This is so good. You really captured that feel of it. So and the very strange people that you do meet there.
The setting felt really authentic as you traveled with the characters.
But I did think that they were very I mean, they were like 18-year-olds, and they weren't supposed to be 18-year-olds. They were behaving very sort of uncautiously. When you're going in such areas, surely you would be a lot more careful.
I don't know,
because I was fairly young. I was a student when I did the trip, and I was a lot more careful.
Yeah, I'm not sure everybody is that careful. I think you would find some that just throw themselves at their experience regardless.
But also, I think they both hit the drink and the drugs quite a lot, quite frequently, which might have had a sort of like an impact on their sense of judgment.
Yes, they did, didn't they?
Yeah.
I don't think they had a sober day.
No.
No.
At one point, I was actually wondering why they were doing the trip, because they were basically getting drunk every time. They were just going to British pubs or Irish pubs. They should stay at home. It will be cheaper than to travel and do these things. They do at home.
We picked this book because our theme was trains. Did you enjoy the journey, and what was your favourite location?
I didn't actually think that the train featured that much. I think there was one segment which was, where they got back on the train after they'd done their trip out into the wilderness, as it were, and that appeared to me was almost like the longest piece on the train, and they met the other young couple or Carrie had met the other young couple in the bar, and Violet then joined them. But other than that, I didn't really think the train featured that much, and it didn't sort of like feel like, for example, the Orient Express and whatever. Got a sense of the sheer scale of the journey. I mean, 4 days is, but only from the fact that you're told it's 4 days for the second segment. Other than that, you probably wouldn't have guessed, just because of the way it was almost like there was like it just passed in a blur for both girls, which obviously it did, because they were just drunk or high all the time.
Yeah. So did anybody have a favourite setting?
For me, Mongolia, the open spaces and stuff. I mean, what overpowered me was the drabness of the Russian cities and stuff. That just overpowered me, and so that's all I could think about. I've never done this trip, so that's all I could think about. And I thought, oh my God, this is, it's so industrial. It's not a place I'd want to go anyway. I found the book really chaotic, but that was their lifestyle. Completely contrast to mine. So very chaotic, and I felt reading it slightly like that. I was back and forth, back to that Sam character, back to the present day with Carrie, off to getting drunk, drugs, meeting people, not meeting people. It tired me out reading it. I loved it, but it tired me out because I was living it with them. And it was interesting when the author said about you liked the character. I found myself, when I realized that she was really quite not a very good person, but I found myself, when she was on the train and she hadn't paid for a ticket, I was thinking, oh, be careful, you're going to get caught. You're going to get caught. And I was like, what am I doing? Get caught? This is a dangerous person. She needs to be caught. But I felt for her, and I wanted her to get out of the situation. So it was an interesting read.
The story was told from 2 points of view, Violet most notably, and Carrie through email. At what stage did you start to figure out that there might be a problem, and with which one of them?
I think there were small clues about Violet's character from the beginning, because from the beginning she's like, okay, I'm dressed like this simply because I want to become this person. So there were like all these small clues from the start.
Yeah, and doesn't she say
you could tell that she would be a very strange person, and then
doesn't she say quite early on, probably not the best time to talk about what happened to Michael? Well, and then you find that what the relevance of that is out later in the book, and that's quite early on, I think, when almost like when they first meet, or when they're first on the train together.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it did appear to be Violet quite early on, and so much early on, I then started to kind of double think and think, oh, is it really Carrie? Because it seems a bit too obvious. But yeah, I really enjoyed the book. Some of the quotes from critics in my book were saying it was hilarious and how funny it was. I mean, there were some elements that made me smile, but I wouldn't have said it was like a funny, hilarious book. But yeah, there was some kind of dry, witty moments, Violet's thoughts about, various travellers. And I mean, also, I don't think it matters, but a bit more background, because how did Carrie get all that money? He didn't really go into what jobs they did. And I've done a bit of backpacking, and I thought the hotels that they stayed in were pretty decent hotels. So, to some of the hotels that you stay in when you backpack.
Yeah, I didn't know how Carrie paid, but I thought they said that they'd saved up for it.
Mm-hmm.
Violet obviously had the money because her dad was a diplomat and kept bailing her out.
Yeah, it was more Carrie, because they were staying in decent hotels.
Yeah,
and she was also stealing some debit and credit cards, so she was actually funding her trip with money that she stole. There was just one thing that I did not understand, which was at the end, when Carrie pretends to be dead, they figure out who is Violet, her real name, her real identity. I did not understand how Carrie figured out this. Did you?
Wasn't it after she'd left her bank card at the scene of Brad's murder?
Yes.
Ah, okay, maybe.
And it had made the press.
Okay.
Yeah. Did anybody guess Carrie's secret?
I think there was a few things where I thought, oh, I'm not quite sure. Well, like as others have said, that clearly Violet is not completely normal, shall we say? But then Carrie's got the odd. She's got the odd thing where you think, what's quite going on there? But I did think it was quite clever that it wasn't really till the end that you got the final reveal that she had pushed Laura, and that's why Laura had broken her leg, and the reasoning why she'd pushed her. And also you were left with that feeling at the end, is Laura going to be completely safe?
Yeah.
I think you found out earlier on that she did push her. That happened quite early on in the text, but you weren't sure whether to believe it. I did wonder if that was a red herring, because it was, say, less than a third in the book when it was mentioned, because she was saying, oh, I don't know how I fell, I must go back and check the ground. And I did think, no, she pushed her. But I was a bit unsure about what she'd done to her boyfriend. I mean, had she just punched him?
Oh, what, Carrie to her boyfriend?
Yeah, she just hit him. Is that it? Was there more to it?
As far as I can gather, I think she just hit him.
Yeah.
Laura seemed to have got the worst of it.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. Were you surprised?
Speaking of
sorry, go on, Chris.
Speaking of light-hearted, as somebody was earlier on, I actually really enjoyed the email exchanges between Carrie and Laura, and I found that it was, as I think Craig was saying, it was really heavy going at times, and I actually looked forward to getting to the emails because it was light, and the way that it was written, they seemed so natural rather than an author writing it. If I'm making it sense, I really believed that it was the two ladies talking to each other, and I love that element of the book.
Yeah, it broke up Violet's narrative. Were you surprised by the ending at all? The whole disclosure about what had happened and...
Yeah, no, I mean, not that she was a psychopath and a trail of bodies followed her, I was surprised at the lack of contact she'd had with, was it Sam, the original boyfriend she kept back to, which was just a one night sort of liaison, and that was it. She just latched onto him, where the German friends were like, oh, she's strange, leave her. But the whole book led you to believe there was a lot more to this romance. It was a long-term sort of boyfriend-girlfriend, and he'd been quite bad, but it was just not that I found intriguing. Not the body count, but Carrie, who hadn't died in the end. I was like, wow, I didn't see that coming. I thought she'd done her in the Russian room as such.
Talking of her dead bodies, What did we think of Brad? Was he helping her or was he suspicious?
Who was that?
She collapsed on the pavement in Germany. No, in Russia.
Russia, yeah, it was the American boy, wasn't it? Yeah.
And he picked her up and took her back to that expensive room. And
I
she
just
had
assumed that you just wanted to seduce her, nothing more, you know, evil than that.
Except you wouldn't pick up a person who passed out and then try it on. I mean, that was definitely really sort of touch, but you know, and she just killed him. I mean, that little bit was a bit sort of really that felt like it popped in there. I don't know, but no, he was strange, Brad, as well. I thought, where's the decent guys in this book?
Yeah, I thought
Martin.
exactly
Martin was the decent guy.
I thought exactly the same. It was like everybody that they met are awful. Even this guy is helping her, but he wants to seduce her, rape her, or whatever. So yeah, I think that one was a bit too much. There was no one that was nice in the book.
I thought Martin was nice.
Yeah,
Martin Rory in Mongolia.
You're right.
He gave her the vanilla drops and told her some of the secrets of how to survive. And I thought he was a nice man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there were passengers on one of the train trips. The couple she'd stolen from the red suitcase. They'd befriended her, hadn't they?
And helped her out, yeah.
Yeah, but she'd stolen from them. They walked off with their suitcase, and she'd emptied it of cash. So were you satisfied with the way it ended?
I was pleased it just ended. I really didn't like anybody. I thought these are odious people. I would hate to come across them. We don't need those kind of people on the planet. And, you know, I went off and read something else and I thought, well, okay, I really don't care in the end. The only thing I did like about it, as I skipped through it because I just couldn't get into it, was the final chapter. And I thought, well, she's a psychopath. Who cares? I just don't want to know about these awful, flippant people. Yes, I've been young. Yes, I've traveled all over the world. Yes, I've done crazy things, but I've always had my bullshit radar up full ball. And I haven't stolen from people and done all these terrible things. And I thought, I hate these women. I hate them and I hate the men. And I thought, if this is the younger generation, I'm glad I'm getting old.
I don't think it is the younger generation.
Well, if anyone's younger than me, they're younger than me because I'm grey-haired and, you know, so they're younger than me. And if that's what they are, I'm pleased I'm leaving the planet soon.
But I don't think they represent the younger generation.
Oh, they were horrible people. Horrible. I wouldn't want to travel with any of them.
You managed to keep that in for the entire meeting.
I wanted to hear what everybody else thought, and I was quite amazed that you all liked it.
No, but I
like
liked the book. I really enjoyed the book, but I did not like any of the characters. I said this.
But sometimes it's fun reading about bad people. Yeah. Because it's exactly the sort of thing that you would never do. That's exactly what I said. I said, why on earth are they being so, incautious and doing crazy things on such a complicated trip? I'd never, ever in my life do that. But that's why it's like an accident, where you can't help but look through your fingers.
But I don't mind bad people and people doing terrible things and that, but it was the prose. I thought, everything is just short, sharp words. Everything's like a stab. There was no words. I went off and read A Slow Fire Burning straight after with Paula Hawkins, which had disturbed people in it and strange things. And I thought, this is just, it's written well, and I think that's, I found this short, sharp, constant things, words like that just didn't gel with me. Maybe I'm old, but I just I like my prose to be a bit better.
Well, I
That's
have
all.
to say that I totally agree with Lorraine.
Yes.
I had it on Audible. I listened to the first 4 chapters and I thought, life's too short to listen to this.
Why did this not come up when I asked at the beginning, as it usually
Because you just
does?
wanted to know what everyone thought.
Yeah.
I'm just going to
Well,
say
and also I thought you might have, you might have encouraged me to actually go and listen to the whole book, but I'm not.
Yeah.
So you listen to the audio, Lorna?
The first 4 chapters, yes.
I actually like the narration. The narration she does an amazing job.
Yeah. I mean, the narration was okay. It wasn't that. It was the content. I just sort of thought,
Yeah.
it wasn't even a case of disliking these people. I really just didn't care for them and didn't want to be in their company, I think,
Agreed.
Anybody else been hiding a secret dislike?
I like the book, and my secret is that I consider it more of a thriller, and I don't like thrillers. And yet I felt the author did a good job of slowly developing the story. And so in the beginning, I did like Carrie, and I worried about her. And she did a very good job of slowly unwinding their characters as she went. And so I didn't start out disliking everyone. And I thought I've traveled a bit too, and I thought it was fairly typical of what happens when you travel. I wish there had been more about the actual mechanics of traveling on that particular train. But I thought she did a really good job, and she had a twist at the end that I was able to live with. It wasn't so unusual because I think she spent a lot of time building up towards it, and that was really good. I do want to say one other thing is that I'm in the States, and I had to buy this book, as I've had several of the most recent reads from a book distributor in England. And I wasn't able to get her book through an independent bookstore in the States. And I'm disappointed because I think the book was really good. And I'm surprised that it wasn't marketed or sold in the United States.
I'm sure I look for every book I put on the voting list to make sure it's available on Amazon on the US store. Was it not available?
It is available on the US store. Amazon has this thing where, and it's a little bit complicated, but it was available on the US store, and you did get Amazon US shipping, but it was from, I bought mine through Book Depository. There's a couple of like Book Depository, and there used to be PB Paperback Shop, and where they sell books and then they send them to JFK and then they repackage them and then they're delivered in the United States. So there's some relationship, but it's not like a typical American author. And unless I wanted to pay for extra shipping, which was very expensive, over $15 American. Then it took several weeks to get to me. It just came as a matter of fact. So I ordered right away. But I'm disappointed because I think the book is good enough to be, and interesting enough, that I'm surprised that it wasn't sold in America. And
can I just say, as a small independent publisher, can I just say how difficult it is to get distribution to the States? And that's because the bookshops there don't necessarily know about what is available that is printed in the UK. And so they don't necessarily order it. And so even if your distributor, Gardner or whatever, would send it to them, they don't necessarily, and they wouldn't they don't think that UK authors will necessarily sell that much there. So they're not going to order just 5 copies, you know. So it's really, really hard. So we haven't cracked that market. So if anybody has any ideas, we're always happy to hear.
But I do definitely make sure that it's at least listed on the Amazon store. If any book is nominated and it's not listed there, then I don't put it up.
Well,
I get a lot of mine via
I like reading a lot of different things, and I wish that more authors were available. I do like this time of the year, I have to admit, because Amazon will make available more titles where they don't charge you the global shipping rate. And so I've been using it to order all of my favorite authors so I can get them. But it's kind of, I know it must be a tough job to get your book in the United States, because even local bookstores, you know, they have to make a living. So what they have available on their shelves is pretty much the typical top 10, you know, books, and they will order anything for you, but it gets difficult for them when it's a foreign book, because they know it's going to take a long time. So but I'm glad I read the book. I'd heard of the book, and I was surprised when I tried to order it that it wasn't available, you know, through Amazon did not sell it directly. And I was really surprised about that.
It will be after the film.
I was going to say, if
I
they're making a
know.
movie of it, you'd think you'd be able to buy the book.
I'm hoping, because the author was so nice, and to conjure up these terrible characters. So I'm really hoping that she gets some financial success out of this. She deserves it. And I hope you ask, I do want to read some of her other books now.
Yes, my next question, my last question for the book club for this book is, would you read more of Susie's books?
Yes, I would.
I already have.
But I ordered them.
Any recommendations?
I'm in Portugal. In Portugal,
so if you like,
her books.
If you like sort of more atmospheric, kind of set in a house, The Lingering is kind of, it's sort of slightly gothic, maybe suitable for dark nights kind of thing. And The Hike is set in Switzerland, in an area that I actually know quite well. So I really related to that. I wrote down that she always picks all the locations that I like, or where I've been, or something.
Does anybody have anything else to say about Violet? Or
the only place I could get the book was via an ebook. There was no the audio wasn't available in Australia, and none of the major bookstores that I get most of my books through had it, or even when I booked something through Book Depository before, it's taken too long to get here, so that's why I don't bother with that anymore. But if I can get an ebook, that's fine, and most of them I've been able to do that. So there's only one I couldn't, and I didn't read the book because I didn't get it in time, but never mind.
So if it's available in e-copy, that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine by me.
Okay. I'll stop the recording.